Our speaker today is Tom Perez from the Right to Clean Water. Tom is one of the Speak Up Titusville officers on the Political Action Committee, responsible for putting the Titusville Charter Amendment on the ballot. Tom is also working with the Florida Rights of Nature Network to bring clean and healthy waters to the Florida Constitution in 2026. Tom is the director for the East Central Florida District, representing 7 counties, including Brevard, and he hopes that you'll join them in their efforts to save Florida's waters.
Thank you, Honor. Hold your applause, Dan. Anyway, I wanted to start out. I'm not going to go right into the presentation because I wanted to give you a little bit of history, okay, and background to this whole right to clean water effort, okay. Here in Florida, it started out in Orange County Charter Review Commission, which placed the first right to clean water amendment on the 2020 ballot. So that was placed on the ballot by the commission. We didn't have to collect petitions for that. So that was really nice. I mean, kind of a progressive group of people, okay, I'd say. So what happened was it went to the ballot. Over 89% of the electorate voted for it. Meanwhile, the state legislature preempted the effort, okay? So from when the commission decided to put it on the ballot, it got on the ballot and it won, the legislature actually wrote legislation to preempt it, which means that, okay, became law and right away it was challenged, okay? And usually when a law is challenged, there are parts of it, okay? And the judge will take and throw out what's not relevant in their perspective for whatever reason. In this case, though, he threw the whole thing out, which wasn't right. Again, you know, it's the way it is. So we have, not me myself, but that's been challenged in court as well. Okay, and hopefully there will be a new day for that. Okay. Now, an important difference between the Orange County law and all the other laws that followed, okay, Titusville State Amendment, okay, that was a rights of nature, okay, and that's what became the issue that could have been thrown out by the judge while keeping the rest intact, but you didn't, okay. So in 2021, a year later, the Speak Up Titusville group was formed. I'm one of them. And we petitioned, okay, to have the right to clean water added to the Titusville Charter, okay, charter. We also requested during that time, the Brevard County Charter Review Commission placed the right to clean water on the ballot for that same year, 2022, okay. Now, these charter review commissions, the one in Orange County and the one in Brevard, they meet infrequently. The one in Brevard meets every 10 years. Okay, it's a group of 15 commissioners. Okay, and in the case of Brevard, they give you 3 bites of the apple. You come in front of them with your group of people that are willing to speak on that topic, and you make your case. It's almost like a law case, okay? And we did that 3 times. We had 6 to 8 people each time speaking. I was one of them there as well. And at the end of the day, they allowed us to present for the 3rd time. This takes about 3 to 6 months, this process. They decided no, 11 to 4. Okay. I won't go into the reasons why, because they're really, they don't hold water. Pardon the pun. Okay. However, Titusville City Council, or I should say, meanwhile, the Titusville Right to Clean Water for 2022 ballot initiative passed with an overwhelming 82% of the electorate. Okay. However, Titusville City Council did not certify the ballot. Instead, it sued Speak Up Titusville. Okay. So the results of that suit are that on May 2023, Judge Holcomb granted a summary judgment in favor of Speak Up Titusville. Okay. The city continued the fight with another appeal, okay? In September 18, 2023, the court issued its order granting a rehearing for November. On November, the court reheard the parties. At the end of the hearing, Judge Paul, different judge, ruled to adopt the previous order granting summary judgment to speak of Titusville. Won twice. Actually more than that, but we'll just stick to the main stuff. The city filed a notice of appeal with the Fifth District Court of Appeals, and we await the court date for that. As of this spring, the city has spent over $165,000 of taxpayers' money to fight what the citizens voted overwhelmingly for. So that is the history, and now I'll continue the history with what's more current. Okay, so now we have a fundamental amendment. Okay, on an amendment to the Constitution of the state of Florida. Okay, this amendment is also known as a Green Amendment. There are 3 of those currently in place throughout the country. The first 2 were in Pennsylvania and Montana in 71 and 72. The most recent one was in 21, New York. You may recall that last year in the fall, there was a group of youth that filed suit in Montana, and they won, and that was based on their agreement. These amendments are very, very powerful. Okay, they are fundamental rights, just like your other fundamental rights. Okay, so we started an effort for 2024, and it didn't make it. Okay, now we're all volunteers here, so we're saying, what happened here? You know, I did Titusville. I naively fully expected that this was gonna go through. Well, what I didn't realize was the enormity of the task. Here you have a grassroots effort, meaning you start in one corner of the state with a handful of people, and somehow you've got to manage to replicate organizations in every county in the state. Maybe one person in some of the rural counties, but you need to have somebody that interacts with your supervisor of elections in each county. The petitions collected for that county go through that supervisor of elections. Okay. So we started out trying to develop infrastructure, pay for petitions, websites, social media, all the things that we thought were important at the time, and doing a lot of things that, as it turns out, were a waste of time. I remember I early on spent hours on the phone trying to contact, you know, Home Depot, CVS, Walgreens, every large company saying, hey, can I collect petitions in your front door? Wouldn't have it. Okay. So anyway, it didn't make it. We did collect 120,000 petitions. And we thought, well, we certainly didn't come close. We were required 867,000. How many? 867, 69, something like that. So for that, you have to collect like 1.1, 1.2 million petitions, because 13 to 15% of them get tossed for some technicality. There's like 15 different reasons that the supervisor of elections asked for has in order to throw something out. Not that they do it, you know, willy-nilly, but that's the way things are. So at the end of that campaign, we turned to professionals. What happened here? You know, we're volunteers again. You know, we're treading water. We're trying to figure things out as we're going along. And they tell us, you know what? We would have been impressed if you had collected 10,000. The fact that you collected 120,000 means that you can do this. Okay, so we are receiving guidance from some of these people pro bono to get this done. Okay, and I'll cover some of that later. Okay, so now let's jump into the new petition. This is for the 2026. Same thing. Okay. And oh, my clicker. All right, so We're here because the system isn't working. It hasn't been working for a long, long time, okay? A very long time. As you can see from all this, I promise this is the only slide that will have this kind of stuff because I try to stay away from it. We all know how bad things are. Okay, we don't need to be hit over the head with it. Springs that you could see through the water from below, see the tree branches on the left, and now can't. All you see is barren land underneath. Okay, so no state has more acres of polluted lakes than we do. No state has more acres of wetlands lost than Florida. Okay. Just to add a few to that, 80% of our springs, 800 of 1,000 springs are polluted. Okay, 1 million acres of estuaries and 9,000 miles of streams and rivers are impaired by fecal bacteria. We all know about blue-green algae, okay, everywhere hurting people and animals. We know about the red tide, how, we're probably going to be expecting more of that later this spring, this summer, I should say. And of course, manatee deaths, and we can just go on and on with that kind of stuff. So why are we in this situation? Okay, it comes down to money, special interests. Okay? They have undue influence over our environment policy. Big ag, big mining, big development. I already talked about the Orange County amendment that was preempted. One thing I didn't mention, the blue-green algae task force. Okay, that's a task force of experts that provided recommendations to the governor years ago. Okay? Only 13% of them have been addressed. So clean, healthy waters promote our public interest, including the health, prosperity, and quality of life. I actually look at it a little more broadly, okay? I see it as we're humans. This is humanity. This is an issue of survival. Okay? We are our environment. As our environment goes, we go because we're part of it. Okay. Why do we need clean water? Among other things, thriving populations and diverse communities of fish and wildlife. Our fishing industry, huge economic generator of this state, okay? At this point, speaking of Titusville, where I am from at the moment, we used to have 6 Reds tournaments per year, and we had a thriving fishing industry, where we ate what came out of the lagoon. Yeah. Well, that no longer exists. So that's gone. The livelihoods of many people obviously is gone. The ability to enjoy the fishing and going into the water, never mind that, and feel like we're not going to be, handicapped with some serious infection. That's happened more than enough, many people. Our wetlands, they are literally our nature's kidneys. Okay, they filter our water, and very importantly, they mitigate, okay, the drought by having areas where water's collected, and also during floods. Again, water is collected in those areas. Okay, well, don't need to say much more about that. Not only do we have local issues where wetlands are being filled in and whatnot, but we also have federal issues now. Right? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we have many economic interests. as a result of our special environment here in Florida. It's all about water here. Okay, so I'm going to be reading some of these because they're going to be important to understand. The purpose of this amendment is to advance these public interests by creating enforceable fundamental right to clean and healthy waters. Authorizing a person, you, to sue for equitable relief when a state executive agency by action or inaction allows harm or threat of harm to Florida waters. This gets real legal, but read it slowly and understand it. Because they claim under this amendment, it's based on a fundamental right. Strict scrutiny shall apply, wherein a state executive agency may raise an affirmative defense that its action or inaction promoted a compelling state interest and was narrowly tailored to advance that interest by the least intrusive means. Deference shall be given to the best available scientific evidence. Well, to translate that, there it is. I'm getting one slide over the other. Okay, here's the translation. If state agencies allow harm to Florida waters, they must have a compelling state interest for doing so. Something that is more important than clean and healthy water. Okay. So someone's pointing the wrong way too.
It's okay, no, it's okay, you're there already.
Oh, okay. Even then, agencies must do all they reasonably can to limit that harm to no more than what is necessary. If they don't meet these common sense measures, we can take them to court, and the court, after weighing scientific information, not political influence, can make sure that they do. Agencies must comply. This is what a fundamental right does for us. So, system isn't working. Special interests have undue influence over environmental policy. Agencies must have a compelling state interest of allowing harm to our waters. Agencies must minimize harm as much as reasonably possible. And courts must look to science and order agencies to remedy violations. They have no recourse. No legislation can get in the way. This is something that rises right to the court level. Okay, addressing some questions. Will this amendment lead to proliferation of lawsuits? It will not. We know this because that hasn't happened in the other states with similar amendments that I spoke about earlier. Two of these have been around since 71 and 72. There's more than a couple, 3 lawsuits, that occurred as a result of this. So that's a non-starter. Won't it be a field day for lawyers? No, because the lawsuits aren't about damages. They're about remedies and restoration of our waters. They're about accountability. There's no money in it. Okay? The polluter will have to undo the damage, but there is no rewards to be given. Okay? Won't this amendment end up raising my taxes? No, there are legal and fiscal reasons this can't happen. Draw laws on that. Furthermore, consider the millions in taxes Floridians are already paying to clean up waters primarily polluted by industry. It's not the polluters that are paying for it, it's the taxpayer. Now consider the impacts to our local economies, and we spoke about that. The livelihoods have been lost and actual whole industries in some areas. Clean water means less taxes, not more. Another argument that's been raised to the legislature on undermining the amendment. Some of Florida's best environmental lawyers, constitutional and legislative, have helped revise the amendment to further protect against that. This law is a fundamental right. Okay, it is self-executing. It does not need legislation to be implemented. So here's our website, in case you've never seen it. And there's plenty more on it as far as questions that are answered. Skipping to where we are now, we need approximately 900,000 signed and approved petitions by December 31st, 2025 to qualify for the 2026 ballot. This time around, we have some advantage. By the way, you have less than 2 years to do all this. Okay, so the first time around, that was another, like, it's almost impossible to do it from scratch. This time around, though, we start out with a statewide infrastructure of volunteers. Obviously, we need to keep growing that to the very last bit. We have a level of public awareness we didn't have in 2022. And having said that, I meet people all the time that haven't heard about this. It amazes me, but that's the way it is. Over 200 organizations and businesses support our campaign. We have an advisory board. One of the recommendations from some of those people that we spoke to, pros, was to establish an advisory board of clean water advocates that are leaders in the state. So we are being advised by campaign professionals. We will conduct a statewide targeted mail campaign. We've already done a pilot in Lee County. 7,000 petitions were collected from Lee County in the last round, and we decided, well, let's try mailing them because we have to start from scratch. All those petitions went away. And so we've done part of that already. It takes money, though. This is one of those things that we're doing this time around a little more earnestly because we realize we need money in order to do these things. We have interest from professional fundraisers and who we will need during the second phase of our operation starting election day. And until then, it's professionally advised. We're conducting volunteer fundraising. So what can we do? Sign a petition. Even more importantly, get others to sign. Donate. And join us. You can do that on the website. You can register if you like. But at the very minimum, we ask people to reach out to their friends and family. Have them sign petitions or drop off locations throughout the state. Obviously, we're growing that. All these things are dynamic, or they can be mailed in. And that's our QR code. And now I just like to leave you with a short video. Some additional questions.
Meet myself and then just try to find all the
Okay.
have been responsible for
Thank you. For the information. Do another one? Yeah, sure. If you like, as long as it brings me petition.
Okay, so if you have questions, first you go ahead and write it on your card and then hold it up, and I will go ahead and grab it from you. Okay. How does the recent SCOTUS decision impact your effort for clean water?
How does the recent,
Does, Supreme Court of the United States, the Chevron, Zephyrin.
yeah, that's huge. Okay. That's another, I guess, hurdle. Okay. But it's not insurmountable, you know, I mean, if you've been in any of these fights, you know that you just gotta keep, moving forward. Okay. It's not a complete answer, but that's as far as I can take it. I mean, it is a blow.
And then your new goal is over a million, right?
Mhm.
How many do you have right now?
Ooh, okay, good question. Right now, I guesstimate we have probably about 18,000. Now, we started on March 9th. This petition came out on March 8th, okay? And you say, well, shoot, that's pretty bad, and it is, okay, but this is three times ahead of where we were the first time around. And remember that, you know, when you start this campaign, you literally start in a flat line, okay? You've got to get petitions made, you've got to get them sent out, and you've got to keep recruiting volunteers and people to do this kind of work. So at this point, I have shipped out over 200,000 petitions statewide, okay? And myself in my area, I have already had 20,000 petitions brought to me for Brevard. So we are in a place that we were not the last time around. I mean, we're light years away. We used to have one individual that used to do these petitions in his own shop. He could only produce a few thousand at a time. So that was a bottleneck in itself. I mean, people have made petitions themselves, which is always helpful. But this time around, we don't have to waste time having groups print out petitions. We can just provide them and have that part of the effort taken care of.
What was the reason Titusville refused to certify? Please elaborate on your answer.
Okay, well, there are two primary reasons. One of them was, there's a lawyer that sits on the council for Titusville, first of all. And the feeling was, well, this is not constitutional. Okay. And the other primary reason was the people don't understand what's on the ballot. Okay, what's on. And interestingly enough, I mean, Speak Up Titusville engaged the council at every opportunity, literally at just about every other meeting. Okay. Asking them, is this worded to your satisfaction? You know, and on and on and on. We wanted their input. And you know, they weren't forthcoming. They did approve it, you know, going on the ballot. Okay, because they had no choice. We had collected the necessary number. But during the whole process, they actually impeded it. Okay. Once the ballot was approved, they actually wanted to prevent it from, sorry, let me back up. Once the people had given us the number of petitions required to make it on the ballot, okay, they wanted to keep it off the ballot. Okay, so we went before a judge. This is before the election, at the last minute, before it got on the ballot. And the argument was, you know, it shouldn't go on the ballot. You know, from our perspective, we want to argue it, but there wasn't enough time. The supervisor of elections needed to know that it could go on the ballot. There was a time thing, okay? And the judge was not willing to have a hearing in that 1 week, week and a half time that we had before the supervisor of elections deadline to put it in the ballot so that it would be printed, you know, on the ballot for everybody to vote on. So, boy, you're bringing back memories. So it got on the ballot. Let's see, what was the rest of that question? I think I got it all, but just in case.
What was the reason Titusville refused to certify?
Right, okay. So those are the two primary reasons: constitutionality, and that the voters did not know, could not read and comprehend what was on the summary. Okay. Both of those just didn't hold water, and the judges certainly saw through that. Okay. And two of them voted against it. And now we're on final appeal.
Okay. What is the requirement for signature sign?
the signature should reflect the signature that is on your license. Having said that, I did go to a meeting of the supervisory of elections where they actually examined the ballot that had recently, taken place. And I watched them in action. They have a panel of 3 people, supervisor of elections being one of them, a judge being another one, and was it one of the members of the council commission. And they're very thorough. They look at that signature in ways that I couldn't figure. And they would determine, yeah, you see that, you see that, you see that, that's consistent with that individual's signature. Okay, but then there are situations where, and I've run into them all the time, where somebody has developed Parkinson's or had an accident, and they're trying to write with their left instead of their right, or the right instead of their left. And their signature is just very, very bad. And I have to counsel them and say, hey, you should go to the supervisor of elections and redo your signature. Because they're gonna look at this and chances are they're not gonna take it. Okay, fortunately though, since I was at that meeting, I learned that they will follow up and send out something to the citizens saying, hey, we noticed your signature is not quite right, maybe you should come in and redo it or whatever. Unfortunately though, that kind of stuff only happens during an election and there is no time to breathe. So these people at the supervisor of elections are really working their butts off. And time is limited. If you get something in the mail, you got to get it back. And it's got to be counted. And so, that time constraint really leads to problems. So I encourage everybody to make sure that their signature still looks like what's on their license.
So is there both a new and an old amendment to sign?
The old amendment, which is very similar to the new one, the new one's been polished up even more by these, lawyers, constitutional lawyers and whatnot. The old one, that 120,000, we had to throw out, does not count. We have to start all over.
I can tell the difference between a new one and old.
There's a date on it. There's an approval date, and there is some difference, but minor.
What are the dates?
On the ballot, you'll see approved March 8th of 2024. All the old petitions should have been thrown, shredded, or destroyed in some way or manner.
Because on the bottom of it says it's under penalty, sign more than one.
Typically what happens is people forget, okay, and they're so passionate about it that, they'll sign a second one. And I think
No, I mean,
that's
the people that signed the old one aren't willing to sign the new one because they feel like they'll be.
can't do anything about that other than talk to them, okay? That's unfortunate if that's the case. I have not run into that. I live in Titusville. This is the 3rd time around. People not only filled out Titusville. Huh?
Condo with 100 people, in it, a lot of them old, right? They signed it a long time ago, long before March 8th.
Right. So listen, I've been doing this for 3 years now. Okay. And I've talked to a lot of people. Okay. And I deal with that. I signed it. When did you sign it? Last year? Oh yeah. You didn't sign it this year, right? Okay. But in case you do sign it twice, okay, although the petition at the bottom says what it says, nobody's going to throw you in jail. Okay. That petition will just not count. And that's
So-
one of the, that is one of the many reasons why petitions are thrown out. One of those technical reasons. Thank you.
Okay, so even though the lawsuits aren't going to bring monetary rewards in, it still would cost money to bring lawyers on. So would it be better to have an ombudsman to oversee violations with the power to veto local violations?
No. lawyers get paid what they would normally get paid. They're not gonna, this is not a boondoggle for them in any way. It costs money to bring a lawsuit. Okay, and those lawsuits would be brought by organizations or people like you and me. So unless we know we're gonna win this thing, okay, we're not gonna bring it. Okay, and that's gonna be known well in advance. That's why the last three green amendments have not had, you know, a plethora of lawsuits. Okay, because it doesn't pay. Okay, it just brings accountability to those that pollute.
In the past, the petitions had specific requirements, was it by county?
Yes and no. There are 28 districts in Florida. And when you have a ballot initiative such as this one, 14 of those, half of those congressional districts have to have the petitions, the number of petitions required filed within that district. Okay. Meanwhile, other counties can actually share numbers. So an example, let's say, I'm not a native of Florida, so small county out in rural areas. They don't have enough petitions, but X county down the street has collected twice as many as they needed. Well, that goes to fulfill that total of 900,000 that we're looking for. But within those 14 districts, we actually have to collect within those districts the required number of petitions, which is usually 10% of what the number of voters that came out on the prior election.
So are those requirements the same as they were last time?
Yes, the only thing that will change is, since this is an election year, 2024, the new total, we're calling it 900,000, will vary a little bit. Okay, and that will be determined by the number of people that come out and vote. Being an election year, you know, for president, you know, this is going to be a higher year. So we went from 69,000. We thought, let's say 900,000. Okay, and you know, that's a safe bet.
Are there any more questions? Okay, thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you all.